Shit, boy, RP on the track.
Yo, what going on, big family? It's your dog, the Ultra Melanite, coming to you live and direct once again from Charleston, South Carolina, aka the Holy City, the cradle of civilization, you dig me? And we still get a lot of static of whether we from Africa or not, whether we should be called black or not, and some other very idiotic comments like we some wannabes or we hate Africa or we hate ourselves. So we decided once again to address those issues in this short video. Like we done told y'all time and time again, our only purpose is to make y'all understand that the so-called black man is indigenous to every land. You dig me? The so-called black man is indigenous to every land, to every continent on this planet. You dig me? It didn't take somebody else to bring us here for us to be here. That's our only purpose. So first off, we don't hate Africa. We don't hate ourselves, and we don't care what anybody outside of this village right chunk call us. You dig me? Like we said before, black and white represent energy, not skin color. So at the village, we don't mind being called black, as we tend to represent the spiritual energy, the dark side of the force. You dig me? But nobody's skin is really actually black. If you want to be technical, we are brown or red. That's the term red bone, which applies only in the so-called black community. No one else calls themselves red. You dig me? There's also evidence of the pygmies in Africa, very melanated brothers who represent themselves as red, like the red ochre, which actually comes in a variety of earth tones, as you can see on the screen. You dig me? So the term redskin specifically applies to the so-called black man and is derogatory to the so-called Native American. You dig me? It's like calling them black people are niggas, whereas in the black community, being called red is common. And we had to throw this info in there because so-called blacks in America were once identified as red, just like so-called blacks in Central Africa. You dig me? So what we need y'all to do today for our grammar lesson is take a look at the computer screen. What we did is take all of these colors and terms that people are identified as and put them on the screen so you can see how these colors really look and who are the only people on the planet that can be identified as such. For example, the Erewhon was described as being a deep chestnut. So here on the screen is a chestnut, very dark brown or red, and only so-called black people represent this color as a race. Do y'all agree? And since the explorer, who y'all tend to always go to, said the original Erewhon were a deep chestnut color, these people had to be so-called black people. Are we correct? Cool, let's rock on. Next, let's go to the most widely used term to describe the so-called black American or the indigenous American, and that's copper. So we put copper on the screen next to different groups of people. So if a person that you meet has this skin tone, this copper-colored skin tone, what race would he most likely represent? Say that in your head. Look at that in your head. You dig me? Look at that copper penny on the screen and put it next to somebody's skin. Who on the planet most closely represents that color? Come on, that in itself should let you know that the natural American was a so-called black man. It's funny to me that so much people hate us, but yet they claim to be descended from us, so-called black people. It's also funny to us that y'all think that there were no blacks in America when documents clearly state so through description. The only people represented as metal on the planet are so-called black peoples. Gold, as in them boy from Guinea or the Andaman. Copper, as in us brothers right China Americas. Brass, as in the Middle Eastern brothers, you dig? And iron, as in the red brothers, you dig me? So, and I know that iron probably confused you a little bit, so let's go to that right quick. When iron oxidizes, it makes a reddish or brownish rust color, you dig? When describing people in terms of ancient color schemes, the color red can only be represented by so-called black Americans. As you can see in some of these paintings right here, where them boy used the red ochre. All right. Now here's something else on the screen. Check out, here's a so-called black woman in Africa. First, notice that her hair is dyed using red ochre. Next thing you need to pay attention to is that her hair and her skin color are almost the same color. This is a red-skinned person. So when we think of red skin in America, we got to understand that these people's skin tone were very, very melanated. Like this beautiful woman that you see right here on the screen, you dig me? The color red can only be attributed to so-called black people. And since the original Americans were labeled as the red man, racially they would have had to been so-called black people, as no other race are able to be classified as such. If the Asians in America were classified as red in America, wouldn't it make sense that they should have been classified as red in Asia also? Nah, they've been mongoloid. That's why that term is derogatory to them. Like we said earlier, it's like calling them a nigger. How y'all feel about that? It's disrespectful to hear people who don't like us claim our heritage. You dig me? Alright, last point we want to make right quick is how the Mongoloid people were generally identified in history. Since we dealing with colors, the Creon people, you know, as you look through history, you see the only colors Mongoloid people were ever identified as pale and yellow. Never dark, never red, at least not as a whole. These Mongoloids, along with the Europeans, are usually drawn with a yellowish tint. You dig what I'm saying? Nowadays, if you were going to use a crayon, you would use a crayon called flesh color, which flesh has now been changed to peach because of some kind of political correctness. But anyway, dig it. It's a tone of yellow or a hue of yellow that is used to depict those people all the way throughout history until today. So this should tell you that the indigenous American were deeply melanated people, aka the so-called black folks. Mongoloids don't contain that deep of a melanin, you dig me? Also, before we leave, we want to point out that a lot of Mexicans call themselves brown, but in actuality they mix. That's why most of them, 90% of them, have black DNA when examined. I don't call it African DNA. I call it so-called black or original DNA. You dig what I'm saying? Has nothing to do with slavery. No way slaves made all of them Mexicans. They got black through racial whitening and through the colonization process back in the gap. You feel me? Hope y'all enjoyed the video. You got any questions, holler at us. You know, this thing wasn't never meant to be derogatory. Hopefully y'all take this as an intellectual journey. You dig what I'm saying? Whether you agree or whether you disagree. This is just an intellectual journey for y'all. Ain't no need to fight. Ain't no need to do that. But if you want to fight, we can get down with you too. You dig me?